We witnessed the 201st mass shooting in this country this year. That means we are averaging more than one a day, more than 200 mass shootings in 128 days. Credible estimates show that more than 14,000 people have died this year from gun violence. This is a crisis. It is a crisis that the Republicans in Congress are refusing to address.
What's going on, everyone? It's Talkskin here today, and we kind of be analyzing the events that's been happening. As some of you may or may not know, during, I believe, May 7th, Texas experienced another mass shooting, as per the intro. And I kind of wanted to talk about that, the fact that politicians like to use tragedy to push their own agenda, but I believe the Democrats are more guilty of doing this, right? They want to push laws and legislation that doesn't actually do anything to address the actual problems of gun control. All they want to do is do something. That's the Democrats' model. I want to do something, right? It's like, I want to act like I'm exercising, but am I actually doing something effective? And that is my question. So when they try to put this heap, oh, where's Republican Congress on gun control? Majority of people support laws that reduce gun violence or gun deaths.
You are asking what will happen next. He was asked about a recent poll that showed an overwhelming majority of respondents support laws to reduce gun violence, like enhancing background checks, enforcing existing laws for guns, or raising the legal age to buy some weapons.
These types of polls are deliberately misleading because the question is asked to get the answer that the poll wants, and they do this by putting the answer in the question. Of course, if you ask people if they support laws to reduce gun violence, they're gonna say yes. What else are they gonna say? No, I want more laws that increase gun violence? The way the question is worded assumes these laws without a doubt actually reduce gun violence. But anyone who looks past the feel-goodery aspects of these proposed gun laws can immediately see that this is not true.
You see now, you heard that. Yes, it's not true, because the Democrats are not adding anything new. They're just repeating the same thing. Oh, gun control, gun control, gun control. If you look back in our country's history, in the 1930s, 1920s, kids had guns. Many people had, the gun regulation was a lot freer there. There was not as much gun regulations in the 1930s as they are now here today in 2023. And there was no mass shootings that ever occurred during those times. Mass shooting is a fairly recent event in U.S. history. And no one wants to address the core issue of the problem. They want to just address the symptoms. Oh, it's the gun, it's the gun. We want to hold gun manufacturers responsible. How are you going to hold them responsible? If someone misuses a tool for violent ends, now we're liable to sue the company. So if someone came out with a hammer and he ended up just cracking people's skulls and breaking people's property with the hammer, the people affected by that hammer can now go to the hammer manufacturer and sue them because, oh, they created a weapon. The weapon was used. No, it's an unapplied standard. When people get into car accidents, when people run someone over with a Cadillac, is now Cadillac responsible for that now too? To me, I want a general rule that everyone must follow. You can't they don't have a lot of nuance to claim why guns should be held as in a special regard. It's just the left just don't like guns. That's it. That's the core issue of it. They don't trust people with guns. They don't like guns. They don't want guns to be used. So they don't want it in anyone's hands. Even though most cases people use guns responsibly, when people come out using the guns irresponsibly, oh, that's the argument to just ban all guns. What case where something that a minority do, everyone else must suffer the same consequence, right? And then some of the things they're going to talk about, like red flag laws, raising the gun price. All I'm saying is, all you're doing is just raising the age of the mass shooter, and it's still not going to stop a majority of gun deaths, because the majority of gun deaths are suicide and homicide. Who commit most homicides? Criminals, people who commit crimes. So if someone's willing to already commit a crime, you think they're really going to sit here and follow your gun legislation? You really think they're going to take the steps to actually follow step by step how to get your gun regulation? No, they're not. They're just going to go to the black market or steal a gun from someone who did do it. Because criminals are going to criminal. Criminals are criminals because they don't follow laws. So you creating a new law is not going to change anything. It's very simple logic. It shows that these people, these politicians, they just want to act like they're doing something so they can show you, look, I passed this law. And my question as a voter, and my question to America who believe in gun control, is, was that effective? After this gun law passed, did this reduce gun deaths? Most cases is no, because the people responsible for gun deaths most of the time are suicidal. You can make a mental health issue for that, and you can say they're criminals where they wasn't going to follow the law anyway. So who the law really stopping? It's restricting us. The good people in our society are restricted in being vulnerable and not being able to defend themselves, while the criminals can go out here run amok. Mass shootings only account for 4% of gun deaths in this country. No matter how frequently they want to put it in our face and try to make it seem like it happens every day. And she misquoted here, and that's why I put up this thing. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said during a press conference on Monday that the U.S. has averaged more than one mass shooting per day since the start of 2023, before later saying the country's average one per week. So she misspoke, right? But that's how they feel, because they put it in front of our face so often that they think, oh, it happens every day. No, it doesn't happen every day. It bothers me that you can clearly see they just want you to go a particular path, just like in the polls, right? They word it a certain way so you you lead people down a certain answer. So then they can go down here and say most Americans agree with gun control. No, they believe in reducing gun deaths, but the argument you have to make is why your law, why your specific prescription will reduce gun deaths or gun crime. And yesterday, the U.S. had its 201st mass shooting of the year. That means we're averaging more than one a day, more than 200 mass shootings in 128 days, she said, adding that more than 14,000 people died this year from gun violence. Well, like I said, only 4% of that is mass shooters. You really believe that we had a bunch of mass shooters? Like if you divide the 200 mass shooting to the 14,000, that's about 70 people per mass shooting. That's not that. I'm sorry. I don't mean to minimize any life, but that's not a lot of people who died. Like most mass shootings, it was like less than 10 people, right? Died this year from gun violence, which people are responsible for, not the gun. The gun's just a tool. I don't know why people get such an emotional response when it comes to guns. I don't know. I don't understand it. It's a tool like anything else. It's the person behind the weapon that does it, that use it responsibly or use it for evil. This is a crisis. It's a crisis that Republicans in Congress are refusing to address. It's not that to me, it's not like Republicans are refusing to address. It's just if Republicans pass a law, let's play a game, because this is the political rhetoric and tribalistic politics that I'm talking about. Republicans are in power right now. If Democrats really cared about solving issues, would they take the solution that the Republicans offer? Most likely no. If the Republicans came out and said, hey, we're going to create a budget, $700 million budget for security, public security officers, where we can place them in public areas, such as malls, such as a public school, would the Democrats pass that law? No, they will not. That's the Republicans' answer to reducing mass shootings. Because if mass shootings is what you're worried about, Republicans got a solution for that. It's just you want a particular outcome, and that's what you guys are having a problem with. That's what you want the Republicans to address. You want the Republicans to subscribe to what the Democrats want. But don't sit here and pretend that, we just want to solve problems, because gun control has shown to not be able to solve it. So we are talking about the number one killer of kids in America. This is also a lie, right? Because if you ask her a specific question, what age are you talking about when you talk about kids? If you talk about younger than 14 years old, this is a lie. 14 to 19 is where you get gun deaths for kids. So, you give a general statement with no context and people will believe it. And Republicans in office are saying that there's nothing we can do about this. Like, mass shootings are taking place in schools, which usually are gun-free zones. Shopping centers, usually gun-free zones. Churches, depend on your church. Certain churches allow people to be armed, right? Movie theaters, grocery stores, temples, and other communal areas, interrupting everyday lives, the press secretary explained. And I'm not going to go too far into this article because I think I've been talking a lot. So I'm gonna put a clip in between to kind of summarize the whole press conference.
He's had to visit, we're about to, sadly, have the anniversary of Buffalo shooting. And then Uvalde. 2 places that the president went to comfort the families who lost their children and who lost their loved ones. And from there, he continued to do the work. He signed, as I mentioned to Steve, as you all know and covered, a bipartisan piece of legislation, the Safer Communities Act. So this is a president that has taken action. And the sad part, and I get the questions are coming to me as they should be, I am the spokesperson for the president, but where's Congress's responsibility on this? Where's their responsibility on this? We need legislation. It is frustrating, and I'm sure you all are frustrated too, to talk about this over and over again. Averaging out to one mass shooting a week.
You see, now hear that it's a 2-part problem, right? You want Republicans to pass legislation. What's the legislation answer? Okay, if a Republican, like I said earlier, if Republicans give their prescription to address mass shootings and reduce the instance of people dying at mass by guns, would the Democrats accept their proposal? Because at the end of the day, you have to make some concessions. Democrats don't want that. Democrats want a particular outcome. They want things done their way. And if it's not done their way, then they say, oh, you don't care about kids. They use this little, and you see how they try to appease to your emotional faculties. So that way you don't logically consider, hey, if gun control really works, why there's more gun deaths in blue states than in red states? Right? Remember Buffalo shooting, that was in a blue state. Just like it happened in red states. This is a pandemic. Like, it's almost a pandemic of, this is why the Republicans think it's mental health issues, that these people need help, right? And I kind of wanted to go through the legislation she was talking about, which was the Bipartisan Safer Community Act, and then the support for this is support states' crisis intervention orders, right? Creates a new $250 million of funding pot that will be available to states for the creation and administration of laws that help ensure deadly weapons are kept out of the hands of individuals a court has determined to be a significant danger to themselves or others, and other proposals such as mental health courts, drug courts, veteran courts, and extreme risk protection orders that are sufficiently due process. All this is reactionary to me, right? Because if Republicans, let's say Republicans had their way and they were able to pass a partisan Safer Community Act, this $750 million will be used for, public security officers. These officers are sole responsibility is to provide funding for businesses that or places that's like malls or public communal areas where the government will cover partial or completely the salary of these public safety officers, where they'll be there to deter mass shooters. That's one option, right? Because end of the day, good man with a gun stops bad man with a gun. Equal and opposite force. You can't get away from that. No mental health professional is going to stop a mass shooter in the moment. No, you got to stop. The mental health person either has to meet them before, or if they're alive after, but at the end of the day, the damage has already been done, right? Protection for victims of domestic violence, right? How is this part of Safer's Community? I guess Safer's Community, I guess, right? But then here's another stat they don't show. Like, it's always been protection. Whenever you hear the word domestic violence, you always think of men. Lesbian couples have the highest rate of domestic violence abuses statistically compared to every other variation of relationships. More than gay relationships, more than heterosexual relationships. Lesbian couples have more domestic violence, but you never hear of that. You never hear that in their statistics. But I'm done. Crack down on criminals who illegally evade licensing requirements and clarifies which seller needs to register, conduct background checks, and keep appropriate records. Right. So the under 21 rule, all this stuff. All I'm saying is this is only delayed. And in the day, if someone wants to, they can get around this stuff. All they have to do is, hey, can you buy a gun for me? And then boom, get their hands on a gun. You're gonna have this concept of gun mules, right? You know how we have drug mules, like people who go over the border and they smuggle drugs with them as payment to help cross the border. You're gonna have those now. You're gonna have gun mules, like people who are gonna go over the border, or people who get paid Hey, I got a good background check, whatever. I'm gonna get your guns for you. Oh, okay. You gotta pay me. Here's my fee. You get the fee. They do all the requirements. Get the gun for the criminal. That's one way they're doing it. And I didn't even need to think. It was just on the spot thinking. How can I evade the law if I was a criminal? That's one way. My argument is gun control is not effective. All gun control is to appease people emotionally about guns. Right? And it seems like we fantasizing our population not to be able to handle themselves. Right? And there's cases where the guy was already, he used to be a security guard, the mass shooter. He was a 33-year-old Latino, and this is according to the Daily Wire. I don't want to keep switching screens, but here we go. He was a neo-Nazi, right? There's pictures of him online with the Nazi flag, whatever, all over his body, right? But when you hear neo-Nazi, what you think? You think of race. You think of a white man. This guy was a Latino guy, 33-year-old Latino male. And he apparently had no friends and received no engagement at all of any of his posts. And this is a big problem that conservatives and I are starting to see a pattern here, that people who do mass shootings are very antisocial. I think that's a sign. If you want to see a red flag, end of the day, I'm all for intervention. I'd rather be proactive than reactive. But the way you go about it ain't stopping the cause that you want. At least be upfront, Democrats. Hey, we want to stop mass shootings. Okay, how do we stop mass shootings? Republicans say, hey, we can put a public safety officer with a gun to deter mass shooters, because it's been shown, especially with the transgender terrorist that happened in the Nashville Christian school. She decided to pick a school that had less security, not more security. So what that tells you, mass shooters are cowards. They don't want to face resistance. So they're going to go to the most vulnerable places in our society. So let's limit that. Your gun control, let's not just take guns away from everybody. That's not going to stop the problem. That's not going to fix the problem. High rates of crime in Chicago. Y'all got strict gun control over there, but criminals still find a way to have their guns. And now you leave the law-abiding citizens sitting ducks. You letting criminals domestically terrorize law-abiding citizens. This is what's going to happen if we take guns off the street. It works in London because they don't have an immigration problem like we do here in the United States. We got 90,000 immigrants coming over the border. You don't think they're going to start creating a new hustle? But I digress. Initial reports that the suspect was a neo-Nazi and an incel were confirmed by strong evidence on the account. The killer shared photos of himself that shared that he had a large Nazi swastika tattooed on his chest and tattooed an SS lightning bolts on the side of his arm. He had shared photos of the SS lightning bolt and Nazi swastikas. He shared photos of Latinos who had Nazi-themed weddings in Mexico. But it's a white supremacy thing. Okay. Right? He used to be military. He served in the U.S. military, but was removed to mental health issues and concerns in 2008, according to FBI. Like this thing keeps coming over and over again. Right? And my problem is, short term, arm all the common places with gun holding officers, right? To deter this. And it ain't going to stop it. We need to stop thinking in utopian terms. Everything is bad compared to our perfect world. We don't live in a perfect world. We have to make trade-offs. Either we leave everyone helpless and overly reliant on the government, or we make everyone capable of defending themselves, and we leave the responsibility to the citizens. Because this can't stand. Like, end of the day, it's a mental health issue. You're always going to be reactive. You're always going to react after the fact. When the whole point of these laws is to be proactive. There's laws against killing people, but deaths still happen, right? People still commit homicide, right? So what makes you think, gun control is going to reduce gun deaths? When most of the people responsible for gun deaths kill themselves, for the most part, or they commit crimes. You think that kind of person will follow laws? You don't think that kind of person is going to find a way to circumvent the law and get their weapons, get their... Come on, guys. We got to be realistic about what the policies we're pushing. That's all I'm trying to say. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. I know it's been a long one, but I felt like I really need to get my thoughts out there today. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.